Xbox.
Thomas & Friends Wonders of Sodor, the first ever officially licensed Thomas & Friends themed train simulator. Made by Dovetail Games, the same developers of Train Sim World, and also the soft launch DLC, Thomas Visits the West Somerset. I was actually very close to dropping the $100 necessary to play as Thomas in that game, in like a week before the announcement, so luckily I restrained myself just in time. This game was announced early February and it came out on March 17th. A quick turnaround from announcement to release. I believe the development of Wonders of Sodor started shortly after the DLC, and this game is mostly building off of the same mechanics from Train Sim World. It's a little shocking that this is the first attempt at bringing Thomas to a Train Sim game officially. I'm not a Train Sim player, or that big of a gamer even. The only official train simming I've done outside of the occasional Roblox game is driving the trains in Red Dead 2. And those are far from real railroad practice.
Rusty, get out of there!
Regardless, I have some thoughts on the game that I'd like to share as a Thomas fan and just from a casual gamer perspective, and we'll discuss if this game is worth buying or not. So yeah, let's get into it. First things first, you can't talk about this game without acknowledging the sheer concept of it. Not to sound like a chud, you don't know about Season 5 kinda guy, but Thomas as a franchise has really not gotten its just dues. For the first half of this decade and the end of the last, he was jumping off the tracks and yada yada, you know this and Mattel that. So this game is a huge breath of fresh air because it is 100% made by train-loving people. They used the Audrey map as their main reference and made the game a blend of Railway series, CGI, and model series. I don't even think it's common knowledge that Thomas has different canons. I feel like if any random company was making a Thomas train sim, it'd likely have just been the CGI locations with random stretches of countryside in between. But they actually took the effort to portray the Sodor locations and map accurately and realistically. There's signals where they need to be, footbridges and walkways underneath to get across platforms, and so much more. They take the stuff we've seen and make it more real. All the stations are bigger to accommodate real-life, longer trains. The scope of the world is just grander. For example, Gordon's Hill. In the TV series, it's portrayed very simplistically. Pretty much just this huge slope, and it got even more ridiculous as the series went on. It eventually just looked like something they should have just built a tunnel through. But Wonders of Sodor portrays it as a journey. A gradual climb that makes sense for a train to have to travel on top of. And it's not just the locations getting the 5-star realism treatment. It's the engines too. In Season 23 of the show, they added a bunch of rivets and handrails in an attempt to make the show look more real looking, which was weird they had done that considering at the time it was the most cartoony era of the show. They pretty much just slapped rivets and handrails wherever. But Wonders improved upon those designs and made some sense of them. While all the cast still have their original prop shapes, the details actually elevate them to be more realistic in a tasteful way. Hell, there are even some improvements on the props themselves. I'm not the first to point this out, but little known fact about the TV series Percy, his sandboxes got flipped around at some point, making the hinges outward, making these technically impossible to open as they just hit his boiler. Every Percy reference material has that error. So the team behind Wonders actually fixed that and put it in the right way. There's a bunch of other small details too. Every engine has an extremely detailed cab, and I certainly can't tell you what most of these things in them do. And there's smaller stuff too, like now Thomas has hinges on his water tank caps. Like, yeah, that does make sense, he probably does need to have those. I'll personally always prefer the simplistic prop looks for Thomas and Friends, but I'm glad that if there are changes made, they're in the service of realism. There is one thing about the engines though, and it's their faces. They're spot on to CGI, but a lot of the time they're strangely lit. In a lot of light settings, and specifically the default one, they look so overexposed and blown out. The rest of the world looks so beautiful and so lifelike, but the faces are just so video gamey looking, if you understand what I mean. It's understandable though. This team does train simulators. They're not gonna perfect faces right out of the gate, but they have perfected the look of about everything else. Not the people though. I think train sim people just kinda look like that and they're gonna look like that forever. Now, let's get into the gameplay. I'd argue it's one of the main draws of this existing. There's 4 different modes to play, but they're all pretty much the same in mechanics. It's a game where you drive trains. You're gonna drive trains in this game. The 4 are stories, timetables, shunting challenges, and explore. Let's talk about the one I bet most everyone will want to do first, Explore Mode. Just go around and see this legendary map that they brought to life. And the Explore Mode in this game, well, it's not exactly what you may expect. You can start yourself at any of the marked locations and spawn in an engine and your choice of rolling stock. Well, not really your choice. At least not simplistically. You're given options based on each engine. Percy, Thomas, Emily, and James are represented as mixed traffic. Wait, I just realized Emily is not mixed traffic in this game. Huh. Thomas and Percy even get a mail train option. That's nice. Also James, the add-on engine, is the only one who comes with tankers. I guess tankers were also in that add-on? They should have put that on the box. And then Diesel is exclusively freight, and Gordon only has his coaches. If I realized this before I recorded, I'd mention Emily here too. So if you want Diesel to pull coaches or Gordon to pull trucks, you'll have to spawn in what you want, uncouple and delete the engine,
Wait!
and then spawn in the character as a light engine and couple up. You can give any engine any freight with this method, but it'll require some shunting, which can be a little tricky and a little bit tiring in this game. Personally, I think it'd be a lot more fun to create your own trains. My pitch would be something like open up a menu, then put together the rolling stock you want, and then it gives it to you to spawn. Just put things in that prevent you or notify you if you're going too heavy or too long of a train. I'd still have presets readily available like Annie and Clarabelle, the mail train, or Gordon's Express, but it'd be nice to have more options in making the rolling stock outside of just shunting your own. I also realize I may just be fighting against the nature of train sims.
Can't always fight nature.
Like I said, I've never played a real one. I don't know if this is typical or not. The more tedious part of the Explore mode is playing in it. You can just start driving your train, but the second you pass a signal, you'll be given a fail service alert, and you'll have to respawn with none of the trains you just made. No, so in order to explore the wonders of Sodor, you have to put in a destination, and then you can travel there. This is so signals can be set in the right path, but it kinda puts a dampener on the fun of it. I guess some people love this level of realism, but I wish there was a way to turn it off and just free explore the rails as an engine and change the points at will. Another mode is timetable mode. I think this is your standard train sim gameplay. You do timetables, you pull trains and stop at signals and stations. Nothing much to say there. It's a good simple way to get yourself acquainted with the engines as they all have different physics and it trains you on some speeds. It's also kind of fun to just see what a day in the life is like for them. Then there's shunting challenges. There's 3 of these, and they're probably my least favorite part. Not bad, I guess, but they're tedious. You hit one truck too hard and it can all derail and you have to restart the game completely. I also found the points to be difficult to switch as well, which led to more derailments and kinda just pissing me off whenever the engine would go down the siding I don't want. I only ended up beating one of these, and it was Percy's, and it took me 55 minutes without any failures to complete it. It's a spectacular way to kill time, but definitely not my favorite. Speaking of the derailments, they're kinda funny looking. This has garnered some mainstream attention too, so that's actually cool. I'm glad people are finding out about this game. And finally, stories. This is the big one. A part that's original for a train sim. At least, I'm assuming? I don't think they say much in real train sims. There's a pretty balanced mix of retelling old tales from the series and originals too. They're nothing too crazy. No big crashes or anything like that. They're all your simple tales that can be easily done in a sim. Now, I wasn't really expecting much, but these are actually kind of fun as a Thomas fan. It's experiencing these stories in a whole new light. A completely realistic light too. It's pretty much just filling in those train work gaps in the stories with doing train work. And it's pretty immersive. Like after playing Thomas and Gordon, I really get why Thomas wanted to leave that goods yard so bad. The worst thing about stories though, is that if you fail, you have to restart the entire story. Yeah. So there's no checkpoints, and you can't skip the cutscenes. If you accidentally overshoot a platform or derail, you have to restart. Man, this gets super tedious having to go back and arrange the same trains and everything. I think it happened twice where I just happened to miss the last platform in the story. Another thing with the stories, they feel a little off. It's a couple things I think. The pacing of the narration is a little weird for one. There's always a little pause between the text clouds.
Gordon opened his eyes, but quickly closed them again when he saw who was standing in front of him. Wake up, Gordon!
I think this is to let the game load in assets, as these are real-time cutscenes. But what I think the biggest reason with the stories is, and this kinda goes for the rest of the game modes too, it's the lack of music.
Driver let the bucket down to the water. The bucket was old and had 5 holes. So they had to fill it, pull it up, and empty it into Thomas's tank as quickly as they could.
In the main menu, you're greeted with this swooping and swelling score. Then when you get in the game, it's just ambience. There's plenty of classic Thomas music that I feel could have been reworked to loop easily. I'm guessing there's some rights issues or some time issues or something like that. And at least in the other modes than story, it's pretty easy to just play your own music yourself. I also think there could just be a little more to do in the stories, like the mundane things. For example, make us wake up Gordon instead of it just being a cutscene. Like, give us a Thomas the Tank Engine QuickTime event, I don't know, that'd be cool. But yeah, I think it could use some more opportunities to act out the stories. Or just some more fun stuff. Like in Thomas and Birdie, you can actually change the story depending on if you win or not. And I was playing this game in front of some friends and I kept telling them, yeah, Thomas is gonna win, that's what happens. And then Thomas did not win. Why'd you have to embarrass me like that? But regardless, that's cool. I think there's a lot to be developed here with stories, and again, this is completely new for train sims. If they do plan to build on, there's so many crashes and runaways in Thomas that could be implemented to advance the storytelling. There is a moment in Percy's Troublesome Day Part 2 where the trucks push Percy out of the quarry, but it's not really much. You just put the brakes on hard enough and you'll be fine. It really slows down as it goes too. I think it'd be great to have to try and fight against the trucks. In my limited game knowledge, I'm thinking like the part in Five Nights at Freddy's sister location where you gotta hold the metal door thing. Something like that. That really feels like it's a real struggle with the player versus the machine. It'd really enhance the experience, you know? I unfortunately also came across some bugs while playing. I played this on PS5, which I've heard may be the weakest port of the game so far. So I couldn't play the tutorial. I just couldn't. It got to how to switch the camera and just stayed there. Even though I successfully switched the camera, there was nothing past that. I couldn't move Thomas, nothing. I tried rebooting everything and it stayed the same when I got back to that point. So I just kinda taught myself in free roam. Some other bugs I had, sometimes I had to reverse engines just to get them to go forward, mostly when it was a longer train. When I played Thomas and Gordon, the story, not the characters, I couldn't drive Gordon out of the station. I had to drive Thomas from the back. He still went the same crazy Gordon speed, but that was weird. Then one time I was pulling a big milk train with Percy backwards. Don't ask. And then he started going forwards instead of backwards, and the backwards became forwards. And I encountered a few other things too. I assume these kinds of bugs will be fixed as time passes on, and honestly, little flack to dovetail, as this is low-key just a thing in new games from now on, from what I understand. Capitalism. The character choices in this game are also pretty solid, if they were truly limited to 5 plus a James DLC. It gets a little repetitive with just the 6 engines, and one of them doesn't even come with the base game. It's a little strange they didn't do a complete Steam team in the base game, but I also sense this had quite the quick turnaround. If I were to do my ideal fan repitch, I'd say include engines 1 through 6. Then you have Emily, of course, and Diesel too, I guess, because he already kinda low-key existed from that DLC. So that way you can have a full Tidmouth Sheds and, you know, your diesel engine. Then I'd say make Toby and Henrietta the add-on, or, if you want even epicer launch, put Toby in the base game so we have the entire main cast, and then have a Duck and Little Western add-on, so that way you're also getting a new line too. That would just feel way more like a proper game, with a DLC that's actually somewhat more of a bonus add-on than something that feels essential. Regardless, judging by the page for other Train Sim World games, yeah, they're definitely planning on releasing more content if this has done well. More capitalism. And I think it has done really well, especially for a train sim. I'm guessing Edward, Henry, Toby are the next 3. And if new lines are in the cards, there'll likely be a Brendan branchline extension, so that way you can have someone like Cranky show up. Then probably further down the line, a Duck, Oliver, and Little Western to expand that side of the island. Maybe even a Rosie at some point because of her newfound stardom. Plus, she's a Vickerstown Station connection, and that location's kinda cool. My crazier prediction is Skarloey Railway Edition. After all, the narrow gauge tracks are at Croven's Gate, and you can drive on them? Huh. Though I bet that is way far away, and probably also would come with, not in the game, but in some capacity, a Tal Flynn connection. I'm thinking akin to how Bachmann has repurposed their Skarloey Railway engines, so it'd kind of be like a digital version of that. As I don't think that railway has been officially simulated, at least not in a modern game. There's also so many more stories I'd love to play through too, like even simple ones like Edward and Gordon, or something like Edward's Exploit. And can they just add Edward already? But yeah, I'm so excited for it if they ever come, and I hear rumor they are. So that's nice, but it's not so nice for our wallets. Assuming this does get there, eventually the buy-in price to have a complete island of Sodor will be very, very high. And again, I think this just might be the nature of train simulators, and we can't fight nature.
We can't fight change. Can't fight gravity. We can't fight nothing.
Thank you, Dutch. Even with that, I am still excited about where this game goes, and I want to keep playing what's in it now. This is one of the coolest products to ever be released for longtime Thomas fans. Not just in a while, but ever. There is a lot to be desired with the base game, and I don't want to downplay it. There is a lot of room for growth, especially in gameplay, and it will suck having to buy into the future DLCs. But I still think it's such an earnest step forward, and I do think this is worth it if you're interested and like Thomas enough. If the price tag is a bit much, which I, again, completely understand, I'd say keep an eye out for sales. I'm pretty sure simulators do tend to go on them at times, as well as their DLCs. I'm also hoping they'll make more bundles if it grows too, so new fans buying in can get all they want for a decent enough price. Despite the flaws, as a Thomas fan, I'm really glad this exists. I love setting up shots while moving along or in photo mode, and I can do all of it without having to get up and go build a set. I'll say it again, and also end on this. Thomas is at its absolute best when at the hands of train-loving people, and Wonders is no exception. And they just had Boko, Whiff, Duke, Hank, Hulk, Cyril the Fogman, and... So, this is my first big video back, and my first ever real review of something. I was sort of testing out the waters a bit with my YouTube shorts, and those actually went over kinda well, and helped grow the channel a little bit. You're probably wondering where I've been if you don't keep up with the channel post or follow me on the X the Everything app. So I started college in fall 22. I made some videos on my breaks in freshman year, but following those, it kind of became hard to just switch my gears fully. Though I definitely kept trying, I just never finished anything. I've been getting a degree in media production too, so I didn't really want to make more media on some of my breaks. But now it's spring 2026, and I'm approaching graduation in May, and I want some irons in the fires to keep me going on creating. And Thomas is actually kind of fun to follow along again. At least it seems like it is for now. Regardless, that is kind of some perfect timing in my life. This is still purely a hobby to me. Come May, I really don't know what anything will look like for me. I'm hoping I don't land a soul-crushing job, but for here and now, you can expect some more videos out of me. The long-teased Boko's Bind is underway. I've been working on this video since summer 2024, and the past couple months it's transformed way closer to finish than it's ever been. I just need a couple more voices, a few effects here or there, sound effects, and then audio mixing those sound effects. So honestly, I'm about a lock-in day away, I'd say. I just don't know when that'll be because I still gotta finish college. I have some more short ideas and a long video or two I might try out. But yeah, I'm Blaine's Models, and I'm back.